I was recently looking at video clips of Star Wars and Stranger Things on YouTube, and it really struck me just how few people are watching the most recent Star Wars clips, especially compared to Stranger Things, which is the biggest show in the world right now. It looks to me that Star Wars is a dying franchise, and that got me thinking, what makes a media franchise dead? And conversely, what makes a franchise alive? I think there are 8 things that make a franchise a living, thriving cultural entity. One, it has a large fan base, very especially among young people. Two, it heavily influences culture. Three, it's regarded as being in its prime. Four, its actors and creatives are stars or rising stars. Five, audiences want more of it. Six, it's making a lot of money. Seven, it is extremely popular. And eight, it's boosting the image and value of the companies attached to it. A perfect current example of this is Stranger Things. So let's examine the show across all 8 of those categories. Fan base. This show has a huge fan base, and many of the fans are young and include many children. Here's an example of this from a Rick Beato video.
So the other day, I went into the living room and my wife and kids were sitting watching Stranger Things, the last episode. And I don't ever watch Stranger Things. I mean, I've sat in on a couple episodes or so, but I don't really know the series. But they are totally into it.
But you wouldn't get this with Star Wars. The only kids watching the most recent serving of memory-flavored tripe from Lucasfilm are the ones forced to view it by parents during family TV night. They probably sit there bored out of their wee skulls, browsing TikTok and wondering why old people like this crap. Culture. Stranger Things has a big influence on culture. There are many YouTube videos enthusiastically discussing the show. It's generating popular memes. People are dressing up as the characters in cosplay and at Halloween. It's aesthetically influential and musically influential. Stranger Things' use of Kate Bush's song Running Up That Hill shot the song to #1 globally. It currently has more than 570 million spins on Spotify and many more on YouTube and other platforms. Stranger Things is undoubtedly the most culturally impactful show in the world right now. Being in its prime, Stranger Things is absolutely in its prime. The first season was great, but season 4 is excellent. It's a mesmerizing, exciting, original show, and one which may be yet to reach its peak. Star power. The Stranger Things cast are really beginning to gain star power. Millie Bobby Brown and Finn Wolfhard in particular are rapidly rising stars, and Jamie Campbell Bower's stock has risen massively following his excellent performance as Vecna. And following season 4's triumph, the Duffer Brothers are now A-list writer-directors and one of the hottest creative teams in the world right now. Audience appetite. Audiences want more of Stranger Things. According to Forbes, Stranger Things racked up 7.2 billion minutes of streaming viewership in the US from May 30th to June 5th, after the 4th season premiered on May 27th, the highest one-week total since the company began tracking data 2 years ago. It's the most popular show in the world, and this isn't just about watch time. Audiences are very engaged and emotionally connected to this show. Just listen to this comment from a YouTube clip of episode 4. "I'm still here. This scene made me want to live." 94,000 likes. Viewers are watching this show. They love it and they will tune in again. Money. It's making a lot of money. Stranger Things 4 is the second Netflix show to be watched for more than 1 billion hours, the first being Squid Game. Season 4 is now the most popular English language title on Netflix by far. It's hard to know just how much money a given show generates for a streaming site, but there is no question that Stranger Things has given Netflix a much-needed boost following what was an abysmal 2022 up to Stranger Things' release. Netflix had a better-than-expected second quarter thanks entirely to the success of Stranger Things. Popularity. It is extremely popular. This is an easy one. A lot of people are watching Stranger Things. It's receiving broad acclaim, both from critics and audiences. And very importantly, in an age where many TV shows and movies are despised for their politically hostile messaging, very few people hate this show. Reflected glory. Stranger Things is boosting the reputation of Netflix, something the company seriously needs following some,
Thank you so much for breaking down what solidarity and allyship and community is supposed to look like.
Incidents, which might have damaged their brand image and the market's confidence in them. I've hated a lot of what Netflix has done recently. Here is just one small example that encapsulates the many mistakes that Netflix refused to stop making.
Albert Whisker, this is an unauthorized use of umbrella property. Put your hands up. Do it now.
I can't fucking even. The Cuties debacle exposed the dark heart of wokeness, and certainly before I cancelled my own subscription, there was just wokeness in almost everything. But seeing a great show from them that is largely free of insufferable identity politics.
Well, what do we learn about woman dwarves that we didn't know through your portrayal?
Well, we learned that they exist.
Is very encouraging. They put a lot of money into this show, and it's turned out well for them. Give the devil his due, Netflix made a good move here. So Stranger Things is crushing it across all 8 living franchise categories, which is why it is so dominant right now. This is a complete contrast to Star Wars. Across all 8 of the criterion that I have identified as being necessary for a franchise to be thriving, how many do you think Star Wars does well in? Well, let's find out. Across all 8 areas, Star Wars is doing the opposite of what it should be doing. Let's start with fan base. Star Wars has a legacy fan base, not a new fan base, not a particularly young fan base, not a growing fan base, a shrinking legacy fan base. Look at this video of an Obi-Wan watch party.
When we think of the word gender, a whole lot of images rush to mind.
Most of us are taught the idea
that people are born a boy or a girl.
And we're expected to act a certain way based on what's between our legs. But that actually isn't true for everyone.
Oh, sorry, that's a video showing a Star Wars watch party in 2050 for the new movie, Episode 20, Revenge of the Order of the Eunuchs. But you get the point. Star Wars has an aging fan base, and it isn't generating new fans, certainly not from Disney content anyway, because everything in Disney Star Wars is worse. Let's just look at one small example. It regards a minor aspect of the Star Wars universe, but it says a lot about the different priorities of Lucas Star Wars and Disney Star Wars. Tusken Raiders. Here are Tusken Raiders in action in the worst George Lucas movie. Say what you want about that movie, that scene is fucking brilliant. When I was a kid, I thought that was hilarious. This guy has just murdered some poor bastard, and he's celebrating it like he's just scored a goal.
Stunning! When you need someone to stand up and be counted. Well, take a bow, son. I mean that, take a bow.
The scene also communicates that the Tusken Raiders are very different. The world they inhabit is very different to the civilized world on a basic moral level. To them, recreational murder is acceptable and even to be applauded when carried out skillfully against a member of an outgroup. The behavior of these people is dictated by a Stone Age morality system. That is why they cannot ever maintain long-term peace with their neighbors, and it's also why they're fucking fun to watch in the Lucas movies. Now let's look at how Tusken Raiders are depicted by Disney.
Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now.
According to this 2019 chart, almost half of young Americans aren't even fans of Star Wars, and that was at the height of The Mandalorian. Now, 3 years, one aged, aimless Boba Fett, one deconstructed Obi-Wan, and a Reva later, you can be damn sure that those numbers are a lot higher. Instead of building a fan base by giving audiences what they want, Disney is alienating old fans and failing to replace them. Lucasfilm attacked the Star Wars fandom on Twitter twice to kick off what turned out to be a major disaster for the studio, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Look, I know wokeness is a cancer that rots organizations from the inside out, but how could a company that made $67.4 billion in revenue in 2021 fuck up a product launch so completely as they did with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series? Imagine that Apple launched a major product with this tactic.
We're excited about how Apple Watch can make a tremendous difference in this area.
This racism fiasco came on the back of their Boba Fett debacle, a show which people only noticed because they were surprised at how bad it was, and they expected better after The Mandalorian. So that makes 2 disasters in a row for Star Wars, and they are bleeding fans.
Please stop watching this stuff. Stop watching Star Wars. The people creating this content hate you. They will insult you to your face. They call you racist. I mean, that's the guy, the star of the show. Oh, the racist fan base. That's how they feel about you.
Now let's look at Disney Star Wars influence on popular culture in 2022. Right, moving on. All right. So Baby Yoda was a big phenomenon. He sold a lot of toys, propelled The Mandalorian to the most watched show in the world, and generated some truly excellent memes. The music for The Mandalorian was also excellent, and I hope it will play a role in propelling film music out of the god-awful Hans Zimmer paradigm in which it has been trapped for what feels like forever. But really, Baby Yoda was literally the only major dent that Disney have been able to put in the popular culture with Star Wars. Boba Fett and Obi-Wan had all the impact on the culture of a Disney lightsaber thrust through the torso.
5 minutes later. Hello.
The Disney sequel trilogy did, however, have huge unintended influence on the culture. It probably propelled the anti-woke backlash forward by a few years. The combination of massive profile movies with glaringly blatant woke messaging woke up a lot of normies to just how bad things had gotten in Hollywood in terms of wokeness. Those sequel movies contributed significantly to the success of post-normie YouTube film critics like Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, and Mahler, as well as many others. If it weren't for the obvious pursuit of political agenda by Disney in the sequel trilogy, a lot of film fans would still be listening to second-rate normie critics like Chris Stuckman.
You know, I've looked at a lot of the fan complaints, and I've read things. I've read articles from well-regarded outlets that seem to be listing all of the mistakes the show made or the inconsistencies that it has brought to A New Hope, and I don't really see it. I don't.
How did Reva survive being stabbed by Vader once as a child and again as a failed assassin? Why is Reva just being forgiven for her war crimes just because she doesn't kill a child? That's fucking insane. That's not how morality works. How did Reva get to Tatooine after she was wounded? Why did Owen tell her his name voluntarily instead of just giving her a bullshit name? Why doesn't the Star Destroyer send out TIE fighters or call for reinforcements when chasing the rebel ship? How did Reva know that Organa would go to Obi-Wan after Leia was captured and that Obi-Wan would say yes and come for Leia? Why didn't Obi-Wan finish Vader off? How did Leia know how to open the spaceship doors? Why didn't Vader stop the second ship with his awesome force powers? Did his energy bar run too low? The Inquisitors could probably find out Obi-Wan is hiding on Tatooine fairly easily since he was flushed out. His being there is now a liability to Luke. Is the audience simply expected to overlook this glaring problem? Why doesn't Princess Leia have a tracking device on her or a bodyguard? Why did Disney not hire a competent director? Why did Disney not hire competent writers? Why did this show have to be so shit?
I don't really see it. I don't.
Another unintentional influence was that The Last Jedi has become, in my opinion, the first movie to become a meme of itself. Film fans will watch The Last Jedi in the future to laugh at just how bad it was and how dumb and stupid a lot of movies were at the peak of the woke cinema era. The Last Jedi also played a role in bringing into the spotlight the extremely irritating "divert the audience's expectations" cliche, which came about as a result of Hollywood misunderstanding what was going on in Game of Thrones. Hollywood saw the popularity of Game of Thrones and thought, wow, the audience love having their expectations diverted. We should do that in everything. In fact, Game of Thrones' secret was simple. The characters didn't have plot armor. Their actions had consequences, and those consequences were divorced from morality. That's it. It had nothing to do with diverting audience expectations. The backlash to The Last Jedi has helped to wake movie fans up to the stupidity of diverting audience expectations for no other reason than to divert the audience's expectations. The Disney trilogy also convinced a lot of fans that IP content, that is, sequels, prequels, spin-offs, reboots, had to stop, and Hollywood especially needed to get back to making original movies that were not derived from a previously successful movie. Let's not remake Children of Men as Children of People Kind, in which women have chosen not to have children as a statement of empowerment, and now an aging, childless mankind lives in a feminist matriarchal paradise with government-provided housing, wine, and cats. No, let's not do that. Let's just make something new. Let's make a brand new buddy movie or something.
Monita McFly is a regular female high schooler of color just trying to get by in the sexist patriarchy of the 80s. Doc Brown is a wacky inventor building a time machine to go on an adventure into the future. But when an incident involving oppressed victims of American imperialism causes her to travel back to the 50s, she finds out that her friend wasn't always as tolerant as he seems.
This is National Educational Television.
Good evening. The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities for a discussion of issues in the current political campaign.
I don't think of love as, in this context, as emotional bosh. I don't think of it as a weak force. But I think of love as...
Why don't you knock off the bullshit and get to the point?
Now, this is what I tried to teach in the struggle in the South, that we are not engaged in a struggle that means we sit down and do nothing.
You're so fucking dumb, I can't believe it.
Now that she knows the terrible truth about Doc Brown and his true intentions of using the time machine to turn back the clock on progress, can she stand in her truth in the evil Nazi slave empire of 1950s America and be heard? Find out this summer in the brand new Disney production of Back to the Future.
Let's move on to how Star Wars is regarded relative to itself. Is it in its prime? Well, this is an easy one. No. Its prime was the original trilogy. The Empire Strikes Back was the zenith. That movie is a masterpiece of cinema. Return of the Jedi was fucking great. Check out this video I made on it, linked below if you don't think so. The prequels were disappointing, though I loved all three at the time, and they have aged well, I think, except for The Phantom Menace, because,
Get out of here.
No, Mrs. Stay. Mr. got Jar Jar Binks.
reasons. Though, let's be real here, the Duel of Fates alone is better than anything that has been defecated into the cinematic landscape by Disney. Long story short, the franchise has been in a tortured death spiral since The Force Awakens, which was a shitty remake of A New Hope. The only great thing to come out of Disney Star Wars was the Baby Yoda memes and bits and pieces of The Mandalorian, and everything else ranges in quality from mediocre to
Rey Skywalker.
And as for Star Wars' most recent outing,
she's badass. She gets shit done. She's a strong female who takes no shit from anyone, be they man, woman, or child. She's loud. She's proud. She's black, and she talks back. How will the story end for our hero, Reva? Find out on Disney Plus in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, that one. No one thinks Star Wars is in its prime. Even the Disney fans and the tiny number of OT fans who continue to cling pointlessly on to this franchise, like a Japanese soldier hiding out in the jungle after his country has surrendered, refusing to accept that the cause is lost, even they can offer no better a defense of Disney Star Wars than, "Star Wars has always been shit, bro," defense. No one likes this shit anymore, and anyone that says they do is either lying for political reasons or they view the modern Star Wars content as single-serving junk entertainment to be consumed then forgotten about. The next area of assessment, how many stars has Disney Star Wars created? Well, after the smashing success of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Moses Ingram is just about the hottest thing since Anakin Skywalker's Vader-affirming surgery. Okay, I might be exaggerating a bit, and she was fucking terrible in the show.
Fire! Light him up! Ah!
Where is he?
Then admit you're a spy. Ah! Enough!
And I don't like to attack someone when they're down, so I just put together a detailed presentation to explain the effect I believe Obi-Wan Kenobi will have on Moses Ingram's career.
Tricky style.
Again, Star Wars is doing the opposite of what thriving franchises do. It's murdering people's careers. Just look at the movies. Not a single star emerged from those movies, and no one's stock was raised. The only heat any actors or actresses got from Disney Star Wars was Pedro Pascal and Gina Carano for their role in The Mandalorian, and maybe Ming-Na Wen. How in the name of Jabba the Hutt's orgy is she 58 years old? And Kathleen Kennedy made damn sure that Carano's career was sunk.
Fire at will, Commander.
As revenge against Jon Favreau for his success with The Mandalorian, which had been safely quarantined from Kennedy's interference. While major online publications get excited about the stars coming out of Stranger Things, no one gives a fuck who's on the Star Wars roster. And that's a big red flag indicating a dying franchise. Next, audience appetite. Well, there's a reason there hasn't been a movie since Star Wars Episode 9 Weekend at Palpy's. No one wants one. And Disney are terrified that another movie would bomb at the box office, exposing Star Wars as a derivative, has-been franchise that can't sell tickets anymore, and forcing a very expensive shutdown and rebuild of Lucasfilm, which would be a disaster for Disney on the stock market, and send the Star Wars content machine into purgatory with no guarantee it will ever get out under Disney ownership. The Book of Boba Fett was a conceptually bad idea that turned into a mangled production that turned into a high-profile embarrassment. I can't believe Obi-Wan got 66% from audiences on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a bad score, but it deserved far worse. The individual episode scores on Metacritic is a far better indication of this show's true score. But even people who liked it because, it's there and there's lightsabers and shit, look, there's Darth Vader, couldn't actually want more of it. What the fuck for? What possible reason could anyone have for tuning back into this junk? There's another very important thing to keep in mind with regard to Lucasfilm keeping audiences interested. Disney have blown their OT load. Leia, Han, and Luke are all dead. The Emperor is dead for a second time. They've wasted Obi-Wan and Vader and got nothing in return. Even young Leia was pulled out of the broom cupboard to run around in the latest farce. They were planning to rape the corpse of Darth Maul with a solo movie trilogy, but thanks to a mercifully awful box office performance, that idea went the way of Maul's legs. And don't even get me started on what they did to Lando. Even Yoda didn't escape the deconstructionist agenda. He was turned into a book-burning imbecile. The fact is, Disney have run out of corpses to pull out of the ground, and they have nothing left to dangle in front of audiences to get asses in seats. Next, let's look at money. Disney Star Wars has been a very mixed bag financially. We'll start with the big wins. The Force Awakens was a major triumph and by far Lucasfilm's biggest win. It made over $2 billion at the box office. The Last Jedi was also a success. It made $1.3 billion. The Rise of Skywalker also did well and made over $1 billion, and Rogue One also made over $1 billion. The Mandalorian has been a huge success and a major driver of subscriptions to Disney Plus and saved Lucasfilm's brand image, though that image has since been destroyed. Baby Yoda was the best-selling Christmas toy of 2020 and one of the best-selling toys of 2021. Now for the bad. Solo was a flop and probably lost the company $250 million. All Star Wars toys Disney have tried to sell have flopped and lost them money, except for Baby Yoda. Hasbro wouldn't even make the Reva lightsaber. The Book of Boba Fett Season 1 cost $100 million to make, and I seriously doubt Disney have made that back on people showing up to Disney Plus to watch the show. It received terrible reviews, it didn't generate any heat or buzz, and if you type, "Why was Book of Boba Fett?" into Google, it will autocomplete as, "Why was Book of Boba Fett so bad?" This show damaged Lucasfilm and made them look incompetent. It also almost certainly caused a loss in investor confidence in Disney, leading to a loss on the stock market. Obi-Wan cost $90 million and did drive a lot of people to Disney Plus prior to the release of the show, and many of them watched it because they wanted to get their money's worth and they were curious. But I think this came out of fan anticipation and build-up, because people wanted to see the Obi-Wan show. Including me, I admit it, I was looking forward to it. The result was a public relations nightmare involving a racism row, awful online episode scores, a massive grassroots backlash on YouTube, and a huge blow to Lucasfilm's public image. I think the second season of this show will do far worse than the first, and it may even end up being cancelled. The show already failed to launch a planned Reva spin-off show, since the only person who would watch that would be a confused grandmother whose clicker broke, and now she doesn't know why there is an angry black woman waving a glowing red stick around the screen. I also suspect that Kathleen Kennedy wanted an Ice Cube's Son and Tala spin-off series, because diversity, But that would only have worked if the show was a major success. So for $90 million, Lucasfilm got a PR nightmare, a terrible show, awful reviews, no spin-offs, and at the end of it all, a much smaller fan base. That goes down as a big loss. Overall though, and despite the losses, given the huge revenue pulled in by their garbage trilogy, Rogue One and The Mandalorian, I do have to give Disney Star Wars a point for making money, though in the past couple of years, things have been abysmal financially. Let's now examine how the Star Wars franchise is affecting the image and value of its parent company, Disney. Let's get straight to the point with this one. Disney ruined Star Wars and everyone knows it, and this has hugely contributed to the company's massive fall in popularity. It sacrificed the most popular movie franchise of all time at the altar of woke. There's no longer any maybe in it. It's been long enough that we can say without doubt that the Disney sequel trilogy was the biggest fuck up in cinema history, and they have continued to make the same mistakes in their crappy TV shows and their one pathetic attempt at a spin-off trilogy. In an act of cultural vandalism worse than anything committed by Mao's Red Guards, Disney deconstructed and humiliated some of the most popular fictional characters of all time. Luke was turned into a pathetic failure and a cowardly recluse. Han was made a deadbeat dad and an old loser, still hanging around with a glorified pet and smuggling for a living. Leia was turned into a politically illiterate and militarily incompetent loser who allows a second empire to rise up and leads the new Rebel Alliance to complete defeat. The Emperor was turned into Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. Yoda was turned into a crazed book-burning iconoclast. Darth Vader was turned into an incompetent hack blinded by a drive for revenge. Mace Windu was turned into a decoration. Lando was turned into a charmless pervert. Obi-Wan was turned into a sad, beaten old coward. God only knows what they were planning to do with Darth Maul if their piece of shit solo trilogy had gotten off the ground. He probably would have come out as a non-binary identifying person of color, started a campaign to delete the word Redskins from old cowboy movies, and in a character-defining monologue, described how, after receiving bottom surgery from Obi-Wan, he was able to embrace his new identity as non-gender conforming and finally stand in his truth and be celebrated as the first non-gender conforming Sith of color.
What part of your transition has actually brought you the most joy?
Getting out of the shower and the towels around your waist and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're just like, there I am.
At this stage, I wouldn't be surprised if Qui-Gon Jinn came out as trans living, and anybody eating dinner with him has to serve him food, even though he can't eat it, but they have to pretend that he can and ask him questions like, "How's the food, Qui-Gon? Oh my god, I'm so supportive of you. I honestly think I might be trans living and come back as a ghost after I die. I mean, not that you're a ghost or dead. I mean, oh wow, would you like a drink? You're so inspiring." As well as humiliating every Star Wars character of any significance, Disney embarrassed themselves with two truly pathetic spin-off shows, got themselves into an image-tarnishing racism spot with the fandom, and had to publicly and humiliatingly cancel a threatened Reva spin-off show. As already discussed, Disney has had mixed success with Star Wars, but nothing even close to what they wanted. Disney expected an MCU 2.0, and what Lucasfilm has become instead is a third-rate, run-down content factory. And now rumours are circulating that the only real talent in the company's leadership, Jon Favreau, might leave just to get the fuck away from Kathleen Kennedy, who has become a byword for franchise annihilation through wokeification. In an open admission that Star Wars has been horribly mismanaged, Kathleen Kennedy has been forbidden by Disney leadership from making any more movies. This makes Lucasfilm a handicapped production company until she's gone. Disney imagined themselves bathing in the light of Star Warsian glory when they bought the company. They imagined that they would be hailed as the company that saved Star Wars after the prequels fuck up, and that Lucasfilm could be turned into an all-conquering empire. The total opposite happened. Disney's reputation was massively damaged by their mishandling of Star Wars, and most fans that care enough to have an opinion think of Lucasfilm as a wretched hive of scum and villainy that put activism first and quality a distant second. Final category, popularity. This doesn't mean how many people are watching it. It means how many fans does the franchise have and how passionate are they. Lucasfilm's performance in this category is very telling. Even the people who liked Obi-Wan didn't love it. No one liked the Book of Boba Fett.
Imagine there's no heaven.
So we can move on from that. And the Disney trilogy is widely despised. Only The Mandalorian has generated genuine fan interest. The Mandalorian, the Oscar Schindler of Disney Lucasfilm. After the evil dictator is gone and the ideology that has suffocated the company for years pops like a bubble with her departure, The Mandalorian will be able to hold its head high and say, I did good in a time of evil. Audiences want more of that show, and they will pay for a Disney Plus subscription to get it. But The Mandalorian truly is the great exception. If Lucasfilm was the Confederacy, The Mandalorian would be Robert E. Lee, the man who managed to keep the Confederacy in the fight for years, despite the incompetency and major defeats going on elsewhere. But, like Lee with the Confederacy, long-term, The Mandalorian won't be enough to save Lucasfilm. There was a moment in Disney Star Wars which, at first glance, looked like Disney had achieved something awesome because it was the one moment that really connected with audiences on a deep emotional level, but that in fact clearly exposes Disney's complete failure to establish a passionate, loyal fan base. This moment. It was Luke Skywalker. Not angry old deconstructed monk Luke from Craggy Island, the real Luke Skywalker. For all the billions of dollars that Disney have spent and made over the past 7 years with Star Wars, the only serious passion they were able to elicit from fans was with an old character who they tried and failed to replace.
Rey Skywalker. Rey Skywalker.
Again. I dare you. I double dare you, motherfuckers.
Rey Skywalker.
What do we learn from this brief appearance of the true Luke Skywalker? A lot of people still love Star Wars, and they will still show up for it, but no one cares about Disney Star Wars. So for popularity, no, Disney Star Wars does not get a point because it hasn't earned one. After examining all 8 areas in which a franchise must do well to be thriving, the Star Wars franchise scores 1. Let's do one more comparison between Stranger Things and Star Wars. Stranger Things' most watched Season 4 clip on YouTube has 16 million views. This clip is a showdown between Max and Vecna. It's an incredible scene, although I don't think it was necessarily intended as a flagship scene. It just became that because of how audiences reacted to it. The full fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, which was supposed to be the rematch of the century, the rumble in the jungle with lightsabers, Disney expected a massive positive audience reaction to it. The full HD fight on YouTube has 1.5 million views. That is pathetic. Just how pathetic? The Critical Drinker's review of Obi-Wan Kenobi has the same number of views. Rick Beato, a rock musicologist who did an analysis of Running Up That Hill, a 60-year-old man doing a musical analysis of a near 40-year-old song, has the same number of views. A scene featuring a popular character from Stranger Things playing a guitar solo has 7.8 million views. The Stranger Things OST has 4.2 million views. That's a great soundtrack, by the way. You should check it out. And just to make this humiliation for Disney complete, here is a video of a lightsaber duel between 2 amazing athletes shot with a fucking smartphone. 44 million views. Here's a fan-made lightsaber duel between old Obi-Wan and Vader. It has 43 million views. And it's fucking excellent, by the way. People love good lightsaber fights. They want quality, exciting fights. But they didn't show up to watch the Vader v Obi-Wan rematch of the century because it's fucking terrible. It has the worst lightsaber fight to come out of Star Wars ever. If Reva and Jar Jar Binks had a baby, it would be that lightsaber fight. That's how fucking bad it is. But also, no one watched it because no one gives a shit about this show, and the only word of mouth it generated was articles expressing their shock that Lucasfilm managed to make the rematch between Vader and Obi-Wan boring. Given the fact that the Stranger Things clip has over 10 times as many views as the rematch of the century, and that Stranger Things crushes all 8 areas a franchise needs to do well in to thrive, while Star Wars scrapes by in one, I think it's safe to conclude that Stranger Things is literally 10 times as popular as Star Wars right now, if not more. Stranger Things is thriving and Star Wars is dying. Star Wars is already dead creatively and artistically. Now it is dying commercially. As a franchise, it is dying. Thanks for listening, subscribe, and don't forget to stand inside the truth. of the like button.